The Giro D'Italia gave me my first Grand Tour wins in 2008. Italy was my home for many years during my career, and the people here welcomed me as one of their own. Though the tough conditions, I've absolutely loved racing every kilometre so far. So I feel it's a perfect opportunity to say with absolute joy in my heart that this will be my final Giro D'Italia, and 2023 will be my final season as a professional cyclist. Right now, there's no need to talk about my short and long-term plans. I'll always be a cyclist, that's for sure. But for this final period, I'd like to just enjoy doing what has made me happy for the last 25 years, and that's simply to race.
And with those words comes to an end one of the greatest careers, not just in cycling, but I'm going to say across sport, Mark Cavendish, announcing a tearful retirement. And I've got a little bit of goosies happening here, Catherine Bates.
Yeah, I must admit that I do too. I think he was very composed. Cavendish and Sagan. I mean, has anyone thought of Merksy?
We can't handle any more of these shock retirements. On the Wheelhouse podcast, we're going to get into it. The road to Rome is complete. You might notice if you're watching the podcast how beautiful, beautiful backdrop we have arrived in gorgeous Roma. Bellissimo. Buongiorno to everyone who has been part of the journey. And as you know, and regular listeners of this program will know, we like to get ahead of things and be quite honest about our rundown. We're both a bit off colour. A bit of travel rigour has kicked in, hasn't it, Catherine?
It has. I mean, I think the biggest chat about the Giro this week has been, are the riders tough enough? Do they need to eat a little bit of cement and get over it? I can tell you, I struggled to get up the stairs this morning. So I'm thinking that maybe some of that criticism is waylaid.
It is indeed. Well, I will not be joining that chorus because I'm as soft as a marshmallow. It has been an extraordinary ride. And as you can see, once again, we've got prime position where the gladiators come to play in beautiful Rome. And there's so much to talk about across the Giro. But I just want to talk about Cav quickly because we're going to go in and out of Cav today. It's been an extraordinary career. And we've mentioned him. I think we at one point, we need a Cav jar to stop ourselves talking about Cav so much because it's so hard not to. The guy has left such an imprint and you've had quite a bit to do with him.
I have. Well, we were actually getting quite annoyed with Cav, with the what team is he going to, what's going on here. We had Scott McGrory on some episodes ago and he told a great story about Cav and his watch.
The watch.
So I think it's a very multifaceted fella that we're talking about. And when we dive into it a bit later, we'll talk about some of the stats behind it. But fair to say, there may not be another Mark Cavendish.
May not be another Mark Cavendish. And you know what? There was something about it because he was chatting to SBS and he was a little bit cagey. He was a little bit like, look, I just want to talk about racing. And this was just before the big announcement. So obviously he's known for a long time. This is where things were leading to. And there was just something about that energy. There was just something about that. Let's just focus on the racing. Then lo and behold, bang.
Lo and behold, bang. Well, he's a Manxman. And everybody talks about cycling as a European sport, but talking about the Great British Isle, Wales being represented front and centre with Geraint Thomas.
Geraint has been
I try to say his name properly. I feel as though nobody struggles more with his name than Australians.
Well, you know what I do? Because we're in the Giro, I just say GT.
GT, yeah.
It's GT. A GT. He's
GT in the GT.
You can use that. Anyone that wants to use that can use it. He's been great. He's been not only great on the bike, but as an advocate and a diplomat for the peloton as well. And there's been so much action. I want to just talk about his age because, look, like a fine wine, as they say, like a fine wine, as we have on our beautiful set in Rome here, he seems to just get better with age. And he's bidding to become the oldest Giro winner. That's something else.
Well, that's a line you've stolen directly from a newspaper. Thomas boosts bid to become oldest Giro winner, which cracks me up. There was another one that said Geraint Thomas fighting to become the oldest winner of the Giro.
Mercy.
It's his birthday today.
Oh,
I put a little cake on there.
Yes. Well, we do.
36.
We have a beautiful little cake.
I love him to say being the oldest Giro. He's 36.
Well, it also made me laugh because I thought, I think he's just fighting to win the Giro. I don't think he's fighting to be the oldest rider. And while we're lighting a little birthday cake candle for Geraint Thomas here. It was Mark Cavendish's birthday last week too. We've had a few birthdays.
Birthdays left, right and centre.
Throughout the Giro. I can think of possibly better things to do on my birthday than some of the conditions these guys have been riding through. But if you go back to the beginning of Geraint Thomas's Giro career, the first time he rode the Giro was in 2008 when he rode for Barlow World. And you'd like to know that he was 3 hours and 23 minutes behind the then winner, Alberto Contador.
Was that crash inspired or just didn't have the legs?
Look, column A, column B.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that I used to call Geraint Thomas autumn leaves because he's had more injuries, this guy. Honestly, he's so resilient through his career. I think at my last count, there's been 3 times he's broken his pelvis. He came to a World Cup in Australia on the track, never made it onto the track because he hit something on the road and ruptured his spleen.
Oh, dear.
And ended up in surgery, collarbones, scaphoids, wrist, the lot of it. But he has persevered. And of course, he took home the Tour de France title. And I think everybody thought perhaps that was a little bit lucky.
Wow.
You know, everything just went right and he managed to pull it off. But I think what we've seen unfolding here at the Giro is kind of vintage
GT.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see him at the very back end of his career really rounding out. I think it would be fair to say a lot of people had written him off as one of the leaders at Ineos. I think they thought he was, one of the strong riders, but certainly not the fella who's going to take away the victory. So I love seeing it. He's a good character too.
He is a good character, Autumn Leaves, on the Wheelhouse podcast. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Catherine Bates is also present. We're in beautiful Rome. We're talking about the Giro. Let's talk about the Giro because GT, you need a bit of luck. Let's be fair. It's been an oppressive Grand Tour. And the very fact of remaining on the bike and remaining in the hunt is significant because what have we lost, 48 to 50?
We've lost
a million? I don't know.
We've lost 48 so far.
Oof.
And I thought, goodness me, that is a lot. Like, that's a fairly rubbish attrition rate. And then I did a bit of a deep dive, as I like to do, as our listeners know that I like to do by now.
Old deep divey Bates.
Old deep divey Bates. Turns out, no, in 2010, there were 57 people who didn't finish. Now, granted, we're not at the end yet. The riders haven't hit Rome just yet. There's time.
Hang on, are you saying we can still chase down that total?
I think so. I think I saw 60 was the most.
Wow.
Recently, but certainly, if you look at it like that, it's quite remarkable that more haven't dropped out, given how difficult this has been. I want to talk a bit about Adam Hansen, the rider union, and the fact that these guys have copped so much criticism. But while we're on the topic of Geraint Thomas, he was leading the way not only with the Maglia Rosa, but also with a little bit of attitude. So we should take a listen to what he had to say on the topic and the criticism.
We see on social media that a lot of the riders from the 80s and the 90s are criticizing your riders in the peloton from what we saw yesterday with the changes and everything. What is your point on that?
A lot of other things happened in the 80s and 90s that we don't do now as well, which we're proud of. So, yeah, they can say what they want.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know if you caught, fantastic answer. I don't know if you caught what the GCN reporter muttered under his breath at the end there, Joel.
You don't often
said.
You don't often get to interview an athlete in any sport and have that kind of a connection to what they say at the end of it and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that you said that.
I do too. So it kind of harks back to the fact that these guys have ultimately been really advocating for themselves, including shortening a stage.
Yep.
Now, it was great for the athletes, I think, to be able to actually have power because for many years they've been discussing the fact that they've been kind of complaining about rider conditions. But there was a real tipping point, I think, at the Giro where for once the riders had the power. Now, whether or not it was the right decision because it turned out to be quite a decent weather day, I think it's really symbolic that the riders actually got a voice and that they aren't actual gladiators. It's not a to the death sport. And so I really liked that. And I think that some of the criticism of the riders And I went through some of the quotes and the criticisms, and it was really like the fans will give up on cycling and they feel betrayed by the riders' actions. And I thought,
what if the riders
now.
aren't willing to like cheat death literally at every turn?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right, though. Like, a rider has a horrendous accident and the fans say, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to watch a sport where this is what we're subjected to watching.
Yeah.
Like, can't win.
That's
it's a little
tough
bit
one.
annoying,
That's
isn't
a really
it?
tough one. And GT's been across that as well.
Yes, GT. I keep getting a little bit
Am I winning you over with the GT?
I do. I like the GT. No, I think something that we really love about the modern day rider and the spokespeople of the bunch, like Geraint Thomas, is that he just says it how it is.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately they're paddling the canoe out there.
Yep.
I mean, so
Quite,
to speak.
in
Although I
some
suppose
cases, quite literally, because the weather's been abhorrent. And I like that, you know, being an advocate, being a spokesperson, it looks better in pink as well. So there's a selflessness to sort of getting out of your head and your race focus and being like, I'm being an advocate and I'm speaking on behalf of the whole peloton here. At the same time, you could very much just be like, you know what, shut up, all the noise. I'm focusing on getting over that line. But
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, the Giro, it's also been criticised for being boring, but I think that people have short memories if they're saying that. Like, you know, it's the top three riders. It's such a tight competition.
You just say it's tight like a toiger.
Tight like a toiger. It is going to come down to the wire. We're going to end the day's show with picks. I don't think we should give picks until we've had the real discussions.
On the Pixar box.
On the Pixar box.
Why did I only just think of that now? It's the Pixar box. They want, if you want a sport that has fights to the death, you can come right here to the Roman Colosseum. And I want to throw something at you. Do you reckon we could maybe restore it into a velodrome? And we could have velodrome riding to the death. And would that make the people happy? Maybe half flood it like they used to as well.
I mean, you had me there on the velodrome part, the to the death bit.
You don't want to do to the death, mate?
You lost me. I mean, we tried to get Russell Crowe to come on in his gladiator suit,
I even
no
said
less.
that
But
in the email, I was like, "Dear Maximus, are you available?"
Yes.
I'm not coming anywhere.
No,
near your
he's at a
stupid
footy
show.
game.
Yeah,
He's
watching my beloved Rabbitohs. This is the Wheelhouse podcast. We're in beautiful Rome. The Giro has been full of drama. One person who hasn't been there, a very good friend of the Wheelhouse, he said it himself, is of course reigning world champion Remco Evenepoel. Now, let's chat about him. He's come out. He's spoken up. He's done the best possible thing you can do as an athlete when you need to respond, and that is issue a statement, Kate.
I wish that he issued an audio statement. A shorter statement.
It's a long statement.
No, he did. I mean, I think he's had a gutful based on this. In this statement, I've picked out the good bits because, as you say, it is long statement.
It's a tome, a ponderous
it is.
tome. Yeah.
But he says, leaving the race with COVID-19 infection was a very brutal end of what could have been a beautiful story. It's very romantic, isn't it?
It is.
Ups and downs are part of our job, and I can accept that without any problem at all. But what is hard to accept is all the fake and negative comments I got after having to leave the race. I am not the type of person that is going to hide or is afraid of losing. So this is for those thinking that. I just want to ask everybody to remember I am not a robot, but also a normal human being, husband, son, teammate, etc.
You know what? Good on him. And that is we're talking about riders taking a bit of power back. That seems to be a bit of a theme here today. He's done that against some of the all-time greats of the sport. He's had some criticism coming from the likes of Contador and that. To come out and say, you know what, you guys... He didn't say that directly. He might have. It was a long enough statement. It might be in there somewhere. But to basically come out and say, you know what, I'm human. I'm a guy and this has happened to me. Go back, step off, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
good on him.
I actually think this adds like an extra layer to the beauty of his journey through the sport.
I thought you were going to say his beauty. He is a good-looking rooster.
He's a good-looking young fella, but... No, you know, I mean, he does say it. He says a very brutal end of what could have been a beautiful story.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that he will win his Giro at some point. Of
course he will.
And at that point, it will mean a little bit more. Yeah. And I'm sure that all the criticism that's come, pretty sure he won't be talking to them in any interviews or giving them much love. So I think what goes around comes around.
Oh,
in
swings
terms
and
of that.
roundabouts. It'll come. He's 23. We're talking about GT at
God.
36, bidding for it. The glory will continue to come for Remco. But what I love about that is, like, guys, this was a beautiful dream for me. I was very, very much intent on succeeding and winning this whole thing. Health got in the way, and it's made impossible for me. So go away. Leave me be.
Well, what will be really interesting, because we mentioned that in GT's first Giro, he lost nearly 3.5 hours to Contador on that occasion. And now at 36, he's looking to potentially win.
Yep.
Right? When you've got riders like Pogačar and Evenepoel and Vingegaard who are winning when they're so young, I'm curious about the longevity of their careers. Will they be able to win for 15 years? Or will it be a bit of a reverse trajectory of what we've seen with the likes of Geraint Thomas, who, by the way, he may have won a Tour de France, but in his first Tour de France, he came 140th out of 141 riders.
I find that respectable.
I love that.
If I was riding for 3 hours and 25 minutes, I'd lose 3 hours 24 minutes.
That's a whole extra stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive, but it is kind of curious to think about the different journeys that the athletes have, because we are going to come back around to Cav, and something that's so remarkable about his career, Joel, is that he's been winning over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that kind of longevity, you don't have many athletes who ever achieve anything like what he has, but to do it over so many years, I think is
longevity, sustained success, all of that. And one thing for the riders these days with your Jonas's and the like is there seems to be more self-awareness. There seems to be more of I'm going to pull the trigger and take some time away or speak up or advocate than maybe there has been in the past. And Cav is one of those as well. Cav's never hesitated to say, you know what, bully, step off, that kind of thing.
And I do wonder, do your Pogačars, Vingegaards, Evenepoels expect themselves to be racing in their late 30s towards 40? Or do they think they've got 10 years here and then they're on a different journey?
Start a tech company or something. Like a young millennial.
Or a Pizza Hut franchise, in the case of Remco.
When I left the Pizza Hut contract, I promised him I'd be back one day, and this is that day. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. Just a quick... Buongiorno!
Bellissimo.
It's been good to see the weather improve slightly. It's beautiful here in Rome.
Look, I think that there has been some sunshine through the Giro, but it has been a pretty horrendous weather. There's been a lot of flooding. Something like 35 different towns were completely underwater. So
horrendous.
We send all our love to the Italian people.
Absolutely.
We've been through that here in Australia over the last years, and I hope that the cycling brings them a little bit of joy.
And you have seen that it has, as much as it's been able to. The galleries, the street lining crowds have been extremely enthusiastic. We'll get onto a bit more of that later because we've probably got an all-time highlight for that. We are coming to you from the Colossimo di Velodromo in Rome. My name's Joel Spreber. This is Catherine Bates. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. Let's do it. Let's talk about Kate Bates. We don't need to go through his numbers because everyone knows that they're extraordinary. He's given himself one more Tour de France, all being well, to chase that all-time record, of course. Not that he needs to. Let's get a comment from you first on the achievements and then your associations.
Yeah, 53 Grand Tour stages, no less. He's been world champion. And I just want to be the first to put it out there, Joel. A couple of weeks ago, the course for the Glasgow World Championships, later on this year, the first Super Worlds, was released. And I said to Merxy, that's a Mark Cavendish course.
Oh.
It's a sprinter's course.
Oh. Are we going there, Merxy? Will we be there?
I think it's a Peter Sagan course.
Oh.
Of course we'll be there.
Yes.
You would say that, Merxy.
Especially if it's a Peter Sagan. I think Merxy will pay for us himself if it's a Peter Sagan course.
No, but I think that, forgetting the Tour de France record, that'd be good and all that jazz. Imagine if Mark Cavendish won. Although a lot of people wouldn't love that because there'd be nobody in the peloton next year in the rainbow jersey. But it would almost be worth it.
That's so cool, though. What a legacy.
I know.
A Welshman in Scotland.
Well, a Manxman.
A Manxman.
A Manxman.
Manxman.
In Scotland. Oh,
Jeez,
that'd
we're going
be
back
offensive,
to like
wouldn't it?
9th century battle lines there.
I probably need to look into my history, but
Yeah.
I feel like that may upset a few.
A few of the old Saxons.
I know. Well,
possibly.
we can't. I mean, Chris Hoy, he's Scottish, but I can't imagine he's making a comeback anytime soon to get out there. But no, look, Mark Cavendish is simply remarkable. I've had a lot of dealings with him through the years when I was racing as well, and I can tell you from the very first time that I met him, he has been a very respectful, very kind. I was about to call him a young man. He's not a young man anymore,
Well,
but
he is, but yes.
Yes, but
yes.
back then he was a kid, and I remember the first because he was a track rider. He's a very good track rider, and the first time he came to Australia to do a World Cup on the track, and my sister was actually working with the British team. She was the physiotherapist, and he won the Madison at the World Cup, and he started crying, like got super, super emotional. He was a young boy, and I remember Nat kind of relaying this story to me, and I was in there racing as well, but hadn't noticed, and just talking about how this young kid was not just so talented, but so passionate about it. And she loves saying that, and I never forgot that. Let's hear some of his words. I mean, for fear of getting more teary and emotional ourselves, about what it meant to him.
Cycling's been my life for over 25 years. The bike's given me opportunities to see the world, meet incredible people. It's taught me so much about life, about dedication, loyalty, companionship and teamwork, sacrifice, humility, and perseverance. All important things. Now as a father, I can show my children. Today is my son Casper's 5th birthday. I'm fortunate it's a rest day and I can see my beautiful family and spend his birthday with him. And I think it's important that now I can be there every birthday for my wife Peter and all our children. It's important I can see all the school concerts. It's important that I can support them in their sporting competitions. And it's important I'm able to run around with them without fear of injury or getting sick.
There it is. Like the heart rules, the heart decides. It's funny because you know how much he's been invested in these achievements, and there's been no shortage of noise around the various records he's been pursuing. So to get to a point where you have that clarity and you have that, you know what, I've done it. I've done enough. I'm happy with what I've done. There are more important things. That's huge coming from an athlete of this magnitude.
Yeah, and it's hard not to feel quite overcome with emotion when listening to his words and his shaky voice, because he's very emotional in the statement too, as you can imagine he would be. But his career, if you look at other sports and try and compare someone to what he's achieved, you almost are left wanting, because there are very few athletes who win over such a long period of time, who get knocked down and get back up again time and time again, and do it with some kind of pomp and ceremony about it. He's never been afraid to say what he's thinking. He's been criticised heavily for it, but he's always just copped it and come back again and again, and he's been raw and honest. And I absolutely love that. And I have to tell one story, Joel, because when I was racing for T-Mobile and I was world champion in 2007, we went to a World Cup at the beginning of 2008 when I was then world champion, and Mark Cavendish was world champion as well, and Bradley Wiggins in the Madison. And the fellas forgot their rainbow striped skin suits.
It happens, yeah.
With the T-Mobile branding on it. And, of course, I hadn't been world champion before, Joel, so I had 50 on me at all times. Anyway, I lent them my skin suits, and they raced in them, but it had my name on the back. It said Bates on the back. So they crossed that out, and I said the only thing I want in return is them to sign it. So I have a world champion T-Mobile skin suit with Mark Cavendish and Bradley Wiggins' signature on it. In the cupboard.
What?
I know.
This is a live reveal for anyone
Prized
listening or
possession.
watching.
I
What?
know, yeah.
Firstly, you've swapped skin with Cav, essentially. B, possibly the most valuable piece of cycling memorabilia. Yes, we're going to Glasgow because we might just trade in one of those and make our efforts and go in 5-star.
No, that in itself was a pretty funny moment to reflect on. But yeah, I think we'll miss him. And I think for all of the times that we've said, oh God, what are we talking about? Cav again? Like there's always something.
Yeah.
It's incredible that over 15 plus years, there's always something to talk about with Cav.
There is, and as a guy too, because there's been a lot of malign. He's been maligned around, little tanties and stuff like that. I remember when I first came in, and there was a lot about, Cavendish is losing it again, and he was having little, my bars aren't right, and blowing up at teammates and that sort of thing. And people were, I guess, giving this perception that he was a bit of a cranky pants, bit of a throw the toys out of the cot kind of character.
Oh, no two ways about it. He's certainly
Is that what he's like behind? Like, is that what he's like? What's he actually?
Yeah, I think he's passionate.
Yeah,
I think he knows how to win. He knows what he needs to win, and he doesn't accept anything less than that.
Mm.
And he had, I think, when this announcement was made, I thought a lot of Aussie Mark Renshaw, who was part of so many of Mark Cavendish's victories over the years, from T-Mobile to High Road, HTC, when there were these beautiful, iconic images of Mark Cavendish crossing the line with his arms in the air, and a few frames back, Mark Renshaw with his arms in the air celebrating his teammate, but his mate's victory. And they were together for the most part of their career after that. Which was a really beautiful partnership in sport. And if you want to look at how much we'll miss Cav, I think we've already missed the Marky Mark combo of Renshaw and Cavendish for a number of years. I want to see who steps up.
Yeah.
I'd like another partnership there where one doesn't go anywhere without the other, and see what they can do.
We can only hope.
We can. I'm putting it out.
Have you got a candidate? Have you got a duo that you could nominate?
No.
What about Jay Vine and Pog?
Oh, well.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but I think in my, good pickup, yes. But I'm thinking sprinters. I want Jonathan Milan. I want him to have a teammate that he can't win without.
They have to be there.
They kind of have to be there, even if just for moral support.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
He spoke a lot about family and things he's missed out on and things he wants to be involved in, and that leads me to questions of legacy and I guess ongoing association with the sport once he retires. Because the way he spoke is kind of like, when I'm done, I'm done. I'm out. Do you think he'll be able to do that?
I think he's so passionate about the sport that he'll always be a bike rider.
Yeah.
It's just what form that takes. I don't imagine that he'll be a team director on the road, because then he won't achieve what he's just said he's trying to by having more time with the family, by being there at the kids' concerts and supporting their sporting careers like his was supported. So I don't think so. But I tell you what, he'd make a very good analyst. He'd make a very, very good analyst. So perhaps we can try and give him a call.
Oh, goodness sake. Yeah.
There's not a lot of room on this desk.
Perhaps we can try and give him another call.
We could make some room. Maxie, can you, what do you think? Can we squeeze in another chair here for Cav?
Yeah, for Cav.
Yep.
I'll get onto it.
I was going to say he's only a wee little fella, so we don't need a lot of room. But to my horror, Joel,
oh no,
of course, in Googling him, he's only a centimetre shorter than me. But I've stood next to him many times.
Yeah.
But I've always felt that he was this tiny, because his proportions are a bit different.
Okay.
He's got short legs and a longer upper body. So on the bike, he looks quite small.
Yes.
But he's not. And when I saw he was nearly pretty much the same height as me, I was, I don't know, mortified.
Mortified. Whenever you start a sentence with "to my horror," I very much hold my breath.
I know. Well, so what I'm saying, Joel, is he'll need a normal adult size seat on the desk.
Okay, we don't need the booster.
No.
But honestly, what a career. We don't need to sit here talking about numbers. The numbers are incredibly, extraordinarily out of this world. We're going to have him for a little bit longer. Before anything else, let's finish the Grand Tour we're in at the moment. On the Wheelhouse podcast, a very quick Bellissimo.
Ciao.
Lovely friends here in Rome, and everyone's been so nice, accommodating us. We sort of just came onto this balcony and said, "Oh, do you mind if we use that?" And not only did they say yes, they gave us a bottle of wine, a muffin, a candle.
I've got a coffee here.
Coffee. It's been very, very accommodating. Buongiorno! Let's talk about the Giro, because we need to get through the Giro before we get to the rest of the season. And as GT said the other day, look, you know, we've got a lot of the hard work done now. It's a bit of downhill action. Then it's going to come down to a TT. And I think when it comes around to final stage TTs and complacency, there are some historic lessons to be learned for many riders. Kate.
Yes. Can GT hold up for the TT?
Ooh, that's
To
the big
take
one.
the GT
on the
victory.
TT needs to stay. Got nothing. Doesn't matter.
It's not. I mean, with this kind of parkour, it is not over till it's over. 2020, we go back to the Tour de France, where Primož Roglič was wearing the maillot jaune.
Yeah.
Leading into the final big stage before the ceremonial jaunt around Paris. And they had a 36-kilometre time trial finishing up La Planche de Belleville, which is a significant mountain. The first place that Chris Froome ever won a Tour de France stage, incidentally. So we know it's uphill. And Roglič lost a minute 56
Yeah, I remember
to
this.
Pogačar.
Yeah.
And he lost the Tour.
I remember
He lost
everyone, because we were in Sydney, there was this COVID thing happening anyway. We couldn't, and everyone just being like, like
Oh,
a minute 56.
the scenes of Tom Dumoulin, who was a teammate of Roglič, them standing there with their masks on, arms crossed, towels over their shoulders, watching it unfold, is just a horror of horror.
The horror.
But as Roglič was climbing, he almost looked like he'd borrowed a kid's bike. Like, he looked so out of sorts on the bike, and his helmet was super crooked. It just looked all wrong.
Everything about it was wrong, and it kind of heralded the sticky tape man era in a certain sense as well.
It did, and that was absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, on the flip side, Cadel Evans sealed his Tour de France victory with a time trial on the second last stage. So it is definitely a very big stage, but it'll be that stage 20 individual time trial uphill, very much uphill. And I'm going to put it out there. I'm a fan of Geraint Thomas. I mean, he's been remarkable. We've talked a lot today about how wonderful we think the Welshman is.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure straight up a hill.
You don't think he has the legs?
That I would rate him over Roglič.
You don't think he has the legs after the performance that he's already delivered? The conditions he's pushed through to have the pink jersey for as long as he has.
Yeah, I think that Jumbo-Visma have been biding their time somewhat and playing it very smart, more patiently and more strategically than perhaps they have done in the past. But I think it's fair to say that with three riders really in contention, of course, Geraint Thomas, Roglič and Almeida, that we've got a lot of exciting racing left on our hands.
We do. And I think
it's certainly not over like we've seen in some of the past Grand Tours where the last week has been pretty meh.
Primoz has been... there's a symmetry to this too, because it's 2020. I know it's a different tour, but Primoz been like, just you. There's a real sense of leave me alone, I'm flying under the radar and I'm waiting to pounce from Primoz. And we saw it the other day when the press pack was hassling him after he came out of doping control. And he's basically... What did he say? He's basically like, mate, there are that many other riders. Why are you so obsessed with me? There's a real sort of just... Leave me be. I'm just going to come in under and then hit you with a massive uppercut at the best possible time, which Kate Bates, I think, is officially predicting will be the final stage TT.
I think, final real
too.
stage.
Just so we know, I'm getting behind the sticky tape man because of the longevity in GT. Like we speak about age and all of that. We speak about the oppression of this tour so far. I just don't think he's going to have the legs.
Yeah, well, I think that whoever wins, it'll be pretty popular. Our friends over at Lantern Rouge are amazing, like stalky fans of João Almeida. So I think stalky fans.
Okay.
That's for you, Benji.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that translates well for the Flemish.
Okay.
Stalky fans.
We can try it. Are you going to have another fight with an entire country?
I'll try not to. Belgium again.
Let's talk about the women's tour on the Wheelhouse podcast, coming to you from beautiful Rome outside the Velodromo di Colosseum. Now, Demi Lishan is back. It's like it never left. It left briefly, but it's back, Kate.
It is. Well, she absolutely dominated the Vuelta a Burgos, winning every stage along the way. So how's that?
That's okay.
Demi,
Yeah.
to get her one back after the Vuelta. The next World Tour stop is Ride London. But before that, they're racing the Touring Ladies Tour at the moment. It's a special place for the Aussies. We've got a lot of history there. And I might say we've got a lot of Aussies racing there because Team Bridgelane are also there, as well as ARA Skip Capital. So it's fantastic. But SD Worx have sent what you would call, I guess, the B team. No disrespect to them, but in terms of they've got 2 squads going.
Yeah,
so Vollering isn't there.
Seconds.
But they're still going top 3 on the stages.
As they do.
So I think there's a little bit of discourse among the fans, like, come on now, why are SD Worx just cleaning up across the board? I've got a theory.
I did. Have we got some sort of burn?
All right, I reckon that SD Worx are using up all their matches, but the other big teams like the likes of Trek Sega, Fredo and Jumbo, they're just getting ready for the Tour de France Femme.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like, oh yeah, cool, SD Worx. You win everything, but then come Tour de France Femme,
We're going to knock you out.
we're going to knock you out.
They're doing a Primoz. They're just like, leave us alone, flying under the radar. There's other riders. But I get it from a fan's point of view, questions of depth and all that kind of thing. You're like, gee, really?
I know. Well, Ride London will be great because Lizzie Diagnan will be back racing there. Now, that's a really cool race that came out of the legacy of the London Olympics. And they go down the Mall and, beautiful scenics of London.
Gorgeous.
And here in Australia, still a little bit of royal fever after the coronation. So, yes. I'm excited to watch that.
We're in Italy.
Sorry,
Over back
as
in
Australians.
Australia, yes. No, absolutely. And some Aussies making headlines as well. Neve Bradbury's been very, very, very impressive.
I am glad you mentioned her. Yes, she is currently wearing the Young Riders jersey. She came through Zwift Academy and joined Canyon SRAM, and she's had a bit of a rough trot along the way. Not the smoothest of rides over the last couple of years, but I'm so glad to see her back and firing. And Ruby Rose McGannon also running some top 5s in stages too. So go Aussies.
Up the Australians. That'd be really interesting. I really like your theory. I feel like we need like a theory whiteboard.
I like it too.
A conspiratorial whiteboard.
There's a lot of... I very often criticise people with conspiracy theories, but have some of my own.
Bring on the femme. It's like when you're targeting the big ones, there's something there, Kate Bates. There's something there. Now, let's talk about super fans on the Wheelhouse podcast because we love when we find a good super fan. And what was that guy's name? I'm having a moment. The Tour de France guy that used to jump up and down. The Devil.
Oh, the Devil.
I can't remember his...
Didi.
Didi, that's it. Didi the Devil. We've been looking for a replacement. We've been looking for a new Didi. We thought we had one on the corkscrew at the Tour Down Under.
Are you referring to yourself, Joel? Chasing J5?
Maybe. But my effort that day pales in comparison to this latest one, Kate.
Yeah. I want to listen to this. Let's just take a listen to it because it is out of this world impressive, his encouragement. How good is this? He's running alongside. You go up the hill, you go down the hill, you've got this. It is so good.
So Derek G has had an excellent tour, 3 second places and a 4th. This guy, one of the more impressive climbs, he gets so up in his face. He's running alongside him, showing tremendous stamina. They're on a massive climb. And Derek's like, he's keeping his focus as he does. Unlike Jay Vine, might I add, who on the corkscrew looked directly at me and went, thanks, mate. I will go on and do well. But I always wonder about this because the riders are like in just undefinable pain, whichever in or un, whichever one it is. And he's right there going, "Come on, blah, 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 blah." What do you do? Like, do you like I love the fandom, but is Derek a little bit like, can you just get out of my face?
Oh, no. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And I might also say that I wouldn't have imagined that Vancouver Island was particularly hilly. But given that he says it's just like Vancouver Island.
It's just like Vancouver Island.
Like, you can do it. I mean, a few swear words in there too. But the story goes on. It doesn't end
there. There's a bromance, isn't there?
Yeah, because this fella, Sean, his name is.
Sean.
He has turned up to the team bus. The team bus has invited him to come along and meet Derek G in person. And he brought him a gift, Joel.
A tome, I believe?
He brought him a book called Uccelli.
Uccelli.
And when he brought it, he muttered the line, "I know you're a keen birder."
What?
So a birder, thank you Internet for teaching me this, is called an ornithologist.
Oh, okay.
So someone who is into birds and bird watching.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Birder.
A birder, just like Phil Liggett.
Why do we just call it Phil Liggett?
Like, hello, friend of show, Phil.
G'day, Phil.
Phil, if you describe a bird to Phil, he will know exactly what bird you are talking about. If you just describe the sound of it, he will know.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible. And so
That's
it turns out Derek G and Phil Liggett, the one and only, have a lot in common. They're both ornithologists.
Merksy.
Got a bit of a fact on the height of Vancouver Island.
Oh, please.
2,195 metres at its highest, which is about 7,200 feet.
Heavens.
There you go.
Heavens indeed. Real heavens touching kind of action, that is.
I genuinely didn't realise that, but there you go.
Okay, well, you know what? Massive effort on Sean's part. Derek's doing it tough. Sean is sprinting alongside him.
Well, he's garnered a bit of press himself because of his antics. And he has said that he's talked to the locals, figured out the best places to be, and the fact that Derek G just gets in so many breaks has really made his job as a super fan quite easy.
It's easy, I know. Yeah.
It is. It's easy for him. And, you have to wonder, while Derek G has been in all these breakaways, is he out there going like, "Oh, I think that's a blue-breasted wren."
Yeah. Does that throw you? I'd love to know.
In
Derek.
that tree above. I'm not sure why I gave the Canadian a British accent, but it just seems right.
Okay, sure. Yeah, blue-breasted wren. I can't do it either. Now, that's great. It's good to see. I do love that about cycling. That level of interaction is...
It is
tops. I do go back to wondering, though, if you're there in like just an absolute world of pain and there's somebody, bro. You're just like...
I think he probably half heard it, and then when he rewatched the video and the coverage was like, "Oh, I remember that guy."
That's right. Unlike Jay Vine, who once again was full of appreciation for my pursuit on the corkscrew.
Oh, he was all over it. Now, if you and or Sean are going to be the super fans to replace Dee Dee, I think there needs to be an outfit of sorts.
And devil is taken.
The devil is taken.
Why don't I dress up as a blue-breasted wren?
Well, yeah. Could be.
Okay, I'm just saying. Oh my! I do like that though. It's like coming down. It's like, oh, it's an albatross. Oh my God! Okay, the Giro is wrapping up. We've had 4 great shows, if my maths is correct.
Yes.
From beautiful Italy, it's been an outstanding tour. I think we'll do it again.
Oh,
I think we'll be back.
So. I think there may be a trip to Paris, a trip to Glasgow. I can see some of my family members over there.
Love that.
And in the meantime, but yes, I think we'll
Wouldn't
be
that
back
require
to
a trip
Bella
to Denmark?
Italia as well. Yes, they're not
good.
far away.
Yeah,
just a bit further north.
Okay. Let's get the Pixar box out, Kate.
The
Bates,
Pixar box
I think the best way to wrap up our stint in Beautiful Italia is to give some final tips. Now, the box has been absolutely torn to shreds. Let's be completely honest quickly. So, Maddie Keenan, Remco, no. So, you had Primoz as your GC from the get-go.
I stand by Primoz.
You're going to tip him to do that TT ambush
I am.
that happened to him in 2020 tour.
And I will very happily describe him as the former ski jumper.
The sticky
when
tape
he does,
man.
yes.
Yeah. I also had Primoz in the GC.
And are you sticking by that?
You know that him and Julian Alaphilippe are like my 2 heroes.
Well, okay, this is true. I feel like Merxy, now he put down Primoz, but Merxy, are we holding to that?
I'm going with the wise old head.
He's going to GT.
GT.
Okay, there you go. Do you want to
He's
adjust
going with
that?
G. Yep, I'll write that on.
Now, just for the sake of mirth, let's just quickly have a look over some of the other names that we dished up 4 weeks ago, and with all respect to those names.
We had Ganna for the TTs. Well, he was out early.
gone.
We had Albo.
Yeah.
Vincenzo Albanese.
Yeah, I'd had that just in a shout out to.
He was 11th in yesterday's stage,
Yep.
in the sprint stage.
Jay, I'm so fine. Jay Vine was still your smoker. We chatted about this on the last episode. What I love about Jay is he's lost a lot of time and all that, but he's still been like, you know what? I'm not going to stop trying.
No. Look, I'm not sure that the Smoky's going to yield anything, to be honest.
Okay.
We had Mollema as the Smoky from Keno. I'm not sure that
Old
holds
Magpie.
up too much. And we've got lines through Gegenhardt, Thomas Gloag,
Here you go. You got to put lines through them.
the mathematician. He gets a line through him too. He's still in the race though.
Okay, so Kate and myself will be sticking with the sticky tape man. Merxy from the Wheelhouse. This is the Wheelhouse team tipping, of course. Is going to back in GT. Geroint Thomas to get the job done, become the oldest. At the ripe old age of 30, was it 38? 36, sorry, 30. Jeez. Yeah, so very old. Anyway, let's see how we go. We'll wrap it all up in the next episode. Thank you so much for coming on this Odyssey with us. Yeah. It's such an honour to finish in front of the Coliseum di Velodromo. We're going to go pitch that idea to the local.
I think so. I think so, yes.
I think it's going to
Prego.
work. Prego. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Your name is?
Katerina Bartes.
Oh, sorry. My name is Giuseppe Spreadbrujo. And I'm going to say a very big ciao and massive shout out to Merxy, who has done all of this. Merxy, thank you, man.
The producer with the most.
Time for wine.
Time for wine.
Glass of wine. Like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know. See you next time on the Wheelhouse Podcast.
Ciao. Did you eat this pizza?
Oh, I was saving that for the end of the... Who ate the pizza? Merxy, did you eat the pizza? It still would have been good too. It had anchovies on it. They last forever. This has been fun.
This has been fun.
Do you have my passport?
No.
Shit.
Maybe Russell Crowe's got it.
Should I call him?
Yes.
Father to a murdered son. No, I don't have your passport.